Hello guys, I'm Ryan Wright.
I am Jerry.
Today we're going to be reviewing 2016's The Witch. Okay, so this movie, there's we're going to try to cover this in just a few minutes. I don't want to give a single spoiler from this film. Trailer's really good at doing that.
Well, this is one of those movies where it's like, even if you spoil something, it's really... I mean, like, don't, but the journey of watching it and experiencing it and going through all that is still intact, I would imagine.
Oh, totally.
Because it's not as much about the answer as what it all feels like.
Yeah, this movie is really defined on its tone, its style. I don't know if it's one of the most eerie films I've ever seen, but it's definitely one of the most eerie films I've seen in a very long time. Like,
oh yeah, I mean,
it really gets under your skin and in this really creepy way.
I mean, it's really sparse and foreboding and at times very almost bleak, it's not a fun...
No, it's not fun, but it's definitely engaging.
Yeah, and it does take its time. It
Totally.
moves the way life probably would have back then. It's not a fast-paced movie or an overly bleh kind of movie. It moves forward with this dread that's totally heightened, I mean, first and foremost by that music,
Oh yeah, the score in this
score is fucking nuts.
It's great, and boy does it add to, because there's some shots, especially in the beginning where the takes are going on for a long time, when I start asking myself, would I be scared right now if the music wasn't playing? But the music is certainly making this scary.
The shots themselves are eerie enough though too, because there's a lot of long shots that hold on things and you're sort of just left to go on this journey with people,
And it's a gripping tale and that's what I mean, the word is tale.
Yeah, it is. And I think the subtitle at the beginning, it says something, I forget, it's like a Puritan fairy tale or something like that.
When it comes to the cinematography, I mean, obviously from the trailers you were like, it looks fucking beautiful. Still, it's not too artsy and too flashy to the point where you're like...
It's just expressive.
Yeah, it's expressive. Yeah, totally, because... It's weird.
It's still beautiful to look at, but not in a distracting way, in a way that only pulls you in that much further.
It's artistic, yet you feel like you're there,
Yeah.
That's what makes it so creepy, is you feel like you're there with the way the takes go on, and the dialogue, the writing is so authentic. I wasn't part of that time period, so I can't really claim authenticity, but there is its own type of style and time period to the dialogue that doesn't feel Hollywood modernized at all.
Well, everything about this movie kind of feels like it's inspired by the time it's from, because the way it's shot and edited, there aren't a lot of moving shots, and there are a lot of very long takes. It's very sparse in the way that it assembles itself. There's not a lot of quick cutting.
Yeah.
The dialogue, I mean, they're pretty upfront about, most of the dialogue is taken from diaries and accounts and things like that. So these are words that were, a lot of them anyway, were words that were either said or written by people who lived during this time period. They did a lot of research.
And it's one of those great horror movies that really is about the characters. This is strongly about the characters, their interactions, consequences, how everything affects. The more this movie goes, the more the characters are affected.
Oh yeah, it's about life at this time. It's what living is like at this time. Because, it shows you a lot of their day in and day out activity and how they're feeling. Like I said, it's not a super plotty movie.
No.
But it does show you what life is like, and it forces you to kind of walk through that.
Yeah.
They're on the edge of a plantation, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just this
and
little
this
cottage
whole
they've
forest.
set up, a little cornfield.
However, it still feels kind of contained because of the time period it's in. They can't travel. They're not surrounded by anyone else but trees.
The nearest town is like a day's horse ride away.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have
one horse.
Goats,
yeah.
one horse, a small cornfield.
A dog, yeah.
Their house doesn't have any windows because they don't have any glass. It's a very... Spartan lifestyle.
Yeah.
And there's so much God.
What's really cool about this film is it's much more of a psychological terror film than it is witch haunting, actually. There's a lot of that there, but it's not primarily that. And I'm pretty sure when you walk away from the film, you will be walking away thinking about all the psychological turmoil, because rather than a traditional movie, especially in a modern day time where something creepy is happening and the characters look stupid, everything feels like, I get why this person's perceiving it this way. I get why that one's perceiving it this way. It always makes sense. Top it off with great dialogue and awesome performances from the whole cast. From the father, the mother, the daughter, the son, even the kids, the twins, they were all fantastic.
Everybody is fantastic. And the thing is, this movie kind of shines a light through the doubt cracks in everybody, because that's really what it's not like a witch movie like, aha, spells and cool shit. Like, it's about what the idea of witchcraft and Satan does to these people at the beginning of America. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, where all you have is kind of your word and your faith. People are trying to grow up, and it's super repressive, and like the nation is unstable.
And how big religion played too. I thought, like, is this going to be one of those movies where witchcraft starts happening and they're just throwing Bible verses at witches all the time?
No.
It's not that movie at all. That's one thing I greatly respect. Anytime I thought this film was going to be predictable or cliche, it never did it.
Yeah.
It always gave something different.
Because it uses witches and witchcraft the way you would if that was just like kind of an idea in life, for them. Because, you believe so heavily in a very literal version of God and Satan, so like, witches are probably a thing that's been whispered about in town.
Yeah.
And the movie treated it that way. It's not like the strange thing happens at the beginning and everyone's like, it's witches! Like it takes a while to get to these conclusions. And it doesn't get to them, like you said, in a cliche way.
And it manages to feel very dark and violent.
Even though when you look
back on it, you're like, it's not that gory, Like, I don't even think there's like gore, but there's some violent shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's violence. They know when to cut from things. They know when to leave you with the impact and not the image. Like,
and looking back on it, every character goes through an arc.
Yeah, because every character has something up with them. Like, we meet the dad. The first scene in the movie is basically him being like, none of you are as faithful as I am. Like, you're all hypocrites and shit. We're gonna leave town.
Everything falls on top of the dad as the leadership, and then you're starting to see when
it's like you've got
leadership
the son,
is questioned, and
it's like you've got the son who's like starting to grow up and he's starting to take on responsibilities, and you've got the older daughter who's dealing with trying to become a woman when that's clearly not encouraged by the faith system they live in. And in certain ways, not that this is like the main metaphor of the movie, but there's almost like the witch is kind of like coming into your own as a woman. People don't understand that at this point in time, and it's like her mother is very austere and very straightforward, but even she harbors some resentment towards, the dad, and that keeps coming up in little ways. The two twins are just fucking around all the time.
Yeah.
So everyone's got a very clear, portrait.
Last thing I want to say before we wrap up this review. This is one of those films that it sucks because it's getting released too early in the year, to the point where it's not going to get recognized by things such as Oscar consideration or whatever. And when there's so much in this where I'm like, this is Oscar worthy. Yeah. Performances, cinematography, even the writing. This is one of those horror movies that's a grand film. It's way more than just a horror flick. It's a film.
Well, it's very literary. Like, it reminded me sort of, and this is probably not a spot-on reference, but it almost reminded me of like Nathaniel Hawthorne. It almost reminded me of parts of Young Goodman Brown, which is like a short story near the time. It's got a very literary quality in it, and it's very austere that way. This is another one where it's like, it's a tremendous horror movie, but it's also just like a really well-made film, regardless of that.
I mean, you're not gonna walk out like, that was great. Like, when the film was done, I was like, I gotta shake some shit off, man.
Yeah. You're gonna feel dark and strange and all sorts of things.
But it's
harrowing.
Effective. It's very effective.
Yeah. It's be forewarned. It's deliberately paced. It's not a fast movie. Yeah. It's a very slow burn. You're watching life under specific
slow
circumstances.
Burn is the perfect word for that. Yeah, slow burning the horror.
Gives you just enough every few minutes. It develops very naturally.
So, rating time. Since people can't understand YouTube reviews without ratings.
Oh, dude, I give it like 100 Jerry's. Maybe like 106 Jerry's.
We'll go with that. Yeah, both of us.
660.
My ratings are going to be called Jerry's. I just want to give them points. That way no one knows like what the final point is.
Yeah.
Give it 20,000 points.
Yeah, start giving things points the way like Whose Line Does It, where it's like, I don't know, that's a big number, I guess that's a good thing.
Anyway, subscribe to this channel, become a reject, it'll be worth your time. We got shit on this channel, Reasons to Jerry, playlist featuring all the Vids, Jerry's, and Dank Stubs, podcast hosted by Jerry. Follow me on Vine, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow Jerry on Twitter, Instagram, and Vine. Wait, what do you use?
I gotta use Vine more, but Instagram, Twitter, all that jazz. I have a Vine, it's just Jerry.
Where YouTubers expose themselves already on YouTube and expose themselves even more on other social media.
That's right.
No such thing as a personal life.
Nope, not ever. 0 times.